And are we live? Yes, good morning everybody. I'm bobbing about on the screen, just checking out things. We're live. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Saturday morning, 11 a.m. and it is, what is it? Story time. With me today I have my spirit guide Gradle, who is standing to my right side. Kachoro is not in the corner today. He's sitting by the door. I think he's it's cool, nice and cool there. And of course we do have remotely, we have my friend Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
And so Chris is going to be reading all of your comments and your questions and then passing them on to me. But first of all, we shall begin. Are you ready? Now, when I was a little girl on BBC Radio, which in those days it wasn't BBC One because there wasn't a BBC Two or a BBC Three, come to think of it, but on BBC Radio at 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day through the weekday, they would have a story time, and there would be a lovely lady there who'd read stories to all the little children who were not yet at school. Is that cute or what? And so she would always begin, "Hello children, we have story time." And then she would say, "Now, are you sitting comfortably?" So I'm asking you, are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. And that's how she used to do it. So once upon a time, I do believe all good stories should begin with a once upon a time. But before I actually get to the actual story, I'd like to talk just a little bit about telepathy. There are lots of people who argue that what I do, talking to dead people, putting it plainly and simply, is just telepathy, but they consider that the telepathy is working actually with the person who I'm talking to, who has come to see me, who has paid me money to connect with their dead folks. And they think there are people who think that I read a person's mind and then tell them back. I don't quite know how they think that happens, but then I talk back to them after I've read their mind, and that's how people like me must know all these things. In some ways, they are closer to the actual truth than they even realize. Because when we talk to the spirit world, when I talk to the spirit world, I shouldn't speak for any other medium, because every medium does it differently. So when I talk to the spirit world, first of all, I see them and I hear them. Now, when I say to you, I hear them, sometimes I will hear the voices very clearly using my hearing. Sometimes I will hear the sound of their voices or their words. It's almost as if I can imagine that dolphins hear this way. It's almost as if sound seeps through your skin somehow. But there is a way of understanding the sound and understanding the words. It's a very complicated and weird thing that we do. And I don't suppose, I'm not smart enough or clever enough to actually understand the exact science of how it works, but it is, I suppose, a form of telepathy, because I am talking with my soul, my mind, my body. Everything about me is connecting with those in the spirit world, and they are connecting with me. So is that a type of telepathy? And I actually, the closest I can come to describing it is to say it does seem to be a type of telepathy. Not with the person who's sitting on the sofa opposite me, who's come to talk to a mother or a father, whoever. Can't do it with them. I'm no good mind reading with somebody on this earth plane, although my story is a little bit about that, because every now and again it can happen and does happen. But when we're talking to the spirit world, when I'm talking to the spirit world, it's sort of like a mind-to-mind talk. I've recently been asked, somebody actually sent us an email. They want a consultation with me, but their ancestors, their loved ones in the spirit world, don't speak English. I think they are, I don't know, some odd language. it could be Pakistan or Peru or anyway. I have spoken to people in the spirit world who were Japanese, Indian, so on and so forth, but language is not a barrier. Isn't that weird? Language between us here on this earth plane can be a huge barrier. If you don't speak somebody else's language or they don't speak yours, we've got a massive barrier. But in the spirit world, because we use this sort of mind talk, let's call it mind talk, because we use this sort of ability to communicate through our mind, even though we're hearing, we're seeing, and so on, we're sort of using our mind. We're raising our level of consciousness, and we're using that raised level of conscious mind talk to connect with each other. Don't ask me how it works, because I don't know. I just do it. But it is fascinating. So when people say, well, she's just mind reading, in a way, perhaps they're more accurate than they realize they are. I'm expecting lots of comments and questions about this. If I haven't confused you all completely, I'm expecting for you to have comments, and maybe some of you know more about this than I do, and I'd love to hear from those of you who think you have the answers. So so I'm always open to be educated. So is it possible then for those of us on this earth plane to also have this mind talk, or this telepathy, or whatever we want to call it? Now, we all have had that experience. When I say all of us who are willing to be open-minded, we've had the experience of, when you're thinking of someone, you've got someone on the mind, and then completely out, you've not spoken them, maybe even for a year or two, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the phone rings and it's them. And how often do we say, you won't believe this, but I was just thinking about you. Thinking, the mind, mind power is incredible. It's amazing. And there are other times when we're thinking of someone, and then later on we go shopping and we haven't seen them for ages, and then we bump into them on the street. I was just thinking about you this morning. That's amazing. We think it's amazing. Now, is it just a coincidence? I personally don't believe there are such things as coincidences. Or is it a question of our mind somehow reaching out and somehow connecting to that person, or them reaching out and connecting to us? We know that everything is energy. We know that everything is all about energy, don't we? So is it our energy sort of reaching out and connecting with them and connecting with their energy? This is an incredibly fascinating story. It's an extremely fascinating topic, should I say. But now I'm going to get on with my story. Are you ready for this? Once upon a time. Are you sitting comfortably? Right. So here is my story. Now, often I tell stories that there are other people's experiences, but as I did last week, this story it's all about me. This story is my own, which happened to me and no one else. So are you ready for it? All right. So many years ago, I went out with this guy. We had a couple of dates. My daughter always used to say to me, I don't know why, but you always have the ugliest boyfriends. And it is true that I'm not attracted to people necessarily for their looks. I'm attracted to people for their energy, for their conversation, for their sense of humor. So fat, thin, or whatever. This guy was a little bit on the heavy side. I'm being kind to him now. But he was a great guy. We only had, I don't know, 2 or 3 dates. And people were looking at me sideways thinking, what is she doing with him? Because not only, it wasn't just his looks. Please don't think that it was about that. It was that he was sort of, let's say we had very different ideas of what constitutes being polite and what constitutes, respect and all the rest of it. And most people knew him as a sort of a big, loud, bullying kind of a guy. But I actually did see the other side of him, which was that he was a really deep thinker and he was extremely sensitive. He just refused to show it to everybody. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So I went on 2 or 3 dates with him, and it wasn't working out as a girlfriend-boyfriend thing, but we did stay in contact and we did stay friends because he was fun to talk to and have a conversation with, and as long as he behaved himself, it was also fun for occasionally to go out for a drink with. So, okay. Now, I hadn't seen this man for, I don't know, months and months. Hadn't spoken to him for months and months and months. It might have even, sorry, there's a plane going over. It might have been even a year or more. I was with a friend, another friend, and we'd gone to the theatre. And I'm watching the play, and as I'm watching the play, it was a great play. I actually saw this man. We should give him a name. We're going to call him Michael, because that was his name. So we're going to call him Michael. And as I said, I hadn't spoken to him for over a year. I hadn't seen him, or I'd been traveling and what one thing and another. But I was at the theatre watching this play, and all of a sudden I see, going across the stage, I see the word Michael come across the stage. And I look to Grey Eagle and I say, is that for me? Am I supposed to get something from that? And then I see, going across the stage, the word help. And I'm thinking maybe I should connect with him or something. I don't know. Maybe he's in trouble or something. I'll call him in a couple of days. And never thought any more about it. And that was that. And never thought anything else about it. A few nights later, and I can tell you that it was a Thursday night, I went to bed. And as often happens when I climb into bed, it's my time for contemplation, it's my time for thinking things over, and I often see things. I suppose it's because I'm psychic, right? So I close my eyes, thinking I need to get to sleep because I've got to be up early tomorrow. And I close my eyes, and you know how sometimes when you close your eyes you see things? In what looked to me like the very far distance, I noticed a little teeny tiny pinprick of light. So I opened my eyes and it was still there. Little tiny pinprick of light. And I'm thinking, what is that? And as I watched it, it started to come closer and closer. But as it came closer and closer, rather like when you're looking through a telescope, when you look at one end, you can see things far, far, far away. And when you look at the other end, you can see things up close. So this teeny tiny bright speck of light, as it came towards me, and it seemed to be coming sort of fairly slowly towards me, but as it came closer, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. It was still sort of this almost like white light. And all of a sudden, it sort of came really, really fast and zoomed right past me. Now remember, I'm lying down. It zoomed right past me, seemed to go right over my shoulder. But as it zoomed past me, I saw Michael's face right there. Whoosh, right at me. And I was so shocked, I called out, Michael. So that was it. No, nothing else, no great revelations, nothing. So the next morning I met my friend Kay, and we met for breakfast, and then I don't know what else we did. We went shopping, I was telling her what had happened. I said, look, this weird thing happened. And I told her about the play. I'd already mentioned it. That happened days before, though. And then I said to her, this weird thing happened. This sort of like this thing, and it was Michael, and I was so shocked and so surprised, I yelled out his name. I'm so happy that I actually told her that. But anyway, that's it, moving on. This, you understand that this is my life. It's not unusual for weird things to happen to me. So I wasn't obsessing over it particularly. So we got on, we had a great day, then we came back, and Friday night was our class night. This is how I know that I saw this thing zooming past my shoulder on a Thursday night. So I'm in the middle of my class, we are just finishing the class, and the phone rang, and I picked up the phone and I said, hello, this is Michael. I heard you calling me. So I said, I've got all my students in front of me, they're all looking at me. So I said, can I call you back in half an hour? Click. So later on I went into my study, and I called him back, and he picked up. I said, Michael, he said, I heard you calling me, and I think maybe you heard me calling you too. And he went on to tell me that his mother, who he was extremely fond of, had died. He'd actually taken her out of the country. She was very, very ill. He'd taken her to a special hospital. He'd been with her, and so on and so forth. And she died a couple of months before. And I think he said to me, I think that you've been on my mind because of my mother, and because of my mother dying, you've been on my mind because of what you do. So I said to him, well, when you say you heard me calling you, what did you mean? And he said, well, last night I was lying in bed. He said, and I swear I heard you shout my name. Just to clarify, he lived about 50 miles away from me. Not a great distance, but not like it's next door and he heard me calling out, is it? He said, last night I went to bed, and he said, I swear I heard you call my name. And he said, and maybe you heard me calling you too, because over the last few days, over the last week, I've been thinking about you, and I have called out your name. What do you think of that story, Chris?
I absolutely love that story.
Now,
and I can tell you that you've got a ton of people on your live broadcasts who very much also like it.
Well, it's a weird story, but it's a true story. There's no real explanation. I'd love to be able to tell you the whys and the hows and all the details of it. But all I can tell you is, first of all, it happened. Second of all, in that moment when I saw Michael whoosh past my shoulder there and called his name, at that moment, at that precise moment, somehow or another, even though we're 50 miles away from each other, somehow or another, we have this mind connection. Was I reading his mind? Was he reading my mind? How were we connecting on that level? And how could it be? Who? And there's no earthly explanation for any of it. It is just a very odd story. It is not, it was the first time that it happened to me in this way, and so strongly. And if you remember, sort of partway through the story, I said to you, I was so glad that I told my friend Kay what had happened, because when she was there on Friday night, and when I'd finished talking to Michael, I came back out. She and a couple of other friends were still there, and everybody was having coffee and so on. And when I told her who it was, she sort of looked at me as if to say, whoa, you know. And then when I told her the rest of the story, and it was just the way that Michael very, very calmly and absolutely assuredly, he knew exactly, I heard you calling me. No doubt in his mind at all. Not one doubt in his mind. I heard you calling me, and maybe you heard me calling you too. And when these things happen to you, I think it's always a great thing to sort of write them down or to tell somebody that these things happen, because I think they happen much more than we might think they do. And I think they happen to all of us. You don't have to be psychic for this sort of thing to happen to you, I can assure you. And so, you know, if we tell somebody, it's sort of almost like when it happens, it's a verification that, you know, you're not making it up. And it's not that I care if anybody else thinks I'm making it up. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. You believe what you believe, and I'll believe what I believe. I'm not telling these stories, and I don't live my life trying to impress other people. When people come up to me very often and they say, you know, sort of all sort of a little bit aggressive, I don't believe in what you do. And you'd be amazed how many people have over the years have said that. I don't believe in what you do. And I, okay, well, that's fine. And well, what have you got to say to that? Nothing. Because I don't care if you believe what I believe in. It makes no difference to me. You have your beliefs and your way of living, and I have mine. The difference is I share mine, and maybe you don't want to share yours, which is also fine. But you know, if you have an experience and you tell somebody you can trust, and then at some point, sort of down the road, as it happened, it was you know, the end of the day, but sometimes they'll take weeks or months or even years before something that you see or something that you sense comes to pass, so that you can understand what it was that you saw or heard or felt, whatever. But when you tell somebody and you share it with somebody, you can then go back to that person. Remember when I said this to you, and said, well, this is what happened. And it's really a great feeling, because if any of you out there have had these experiences but you think you're going crazy, when you share it with someone, you can see, no, you're not going crazy, because you shared this with somebody and they can enjoy the experience as much as you did. So my friend Kay was able to say to me, oh my goodness, wow, what a thing to happen. And what happened with Michael and his mother? Nothing really. We still kept in touch. I told him what had happened. He was very accepting of it. He just understood it, because he'd been having these same thoughts. Thoughts are living things. I've always said thoughts are living things. Thoughts are very powerful. We have this incredible mind power, and we don't use it by half. I think the majority of us use this tiny little bit of the mind power that we have. But I think if we understand that we do have power, and that we are using our mind and being mindful of who we are, what we are, and how we, live our lives, we can totally affect what goes on with us, and we can, if we learn to use that mind power, it can be remarkable, absolutely remarkable. That's the end of my story, right, Chris?
So
I'm expecting, listen here, let me say, once the comments and the questions are done, we're done, right, Chris? We're over. Story time is over, so keep them coming, because as long as you keep it coming, I'll keep it coming as well. All right.
So there's a list of people who are saying hellos: Denise,
Hi,
Sam
everyone.
and Reese, Jennifer, Maggie.
Hold on, did you say my darling boy?
I did.
Hi, my darling boy. I hope you like that story. It's weird. Reese and I, just before we were talking about this, we were talking about, he watched the movie Back to the Future. He said, but Mosey, that doesn't make sense, going back to the future. And we were having a conversation about how when Mosey does time travel, sometimes you have to go back in order to go forward. And we were having that, he's 7 years old, by the way. So, but we were having that conversation, and I'm sure we'll revisit that conversation, because I believe that when a child asks, no matter what age, then they're ready to know the answers. So keep going. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, no worries. Jennifer, Maggie, Ilse, and Antonella, Claudia from Uruguay, Sarah.
Is that my Claudia? It could be my
Yes.
Claudia with Tomas.
And she wants to talk to you.
Well, you know where I am, don't you? That's another story. I'm going to tell Claudia and Tomas' story at some point on a Saturday morning, because that is the most brilliant story about an earth angel. And Tomas is an earth angel. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Sarah, Bear Medicine Walker.
Are you reading all of them out?
Yes. Well, right. They want people to know that they're your fans. They're here to support you.
Okay.
Jeff, and Jeff's got a few comments. Natalie from Belgium. Loretta, I'm going to murder his name or her name. Giusi. Giusi. Rosanna, D. Ezekiel, Lorenzo, Anna, Jennifer, Mayola, Kitty, Rico, Joanne, Ji Young. You've got them from all over.
You know what we'd love to do when you write in your questions and comments? We'd love to know. You could put from Germany or from Japan or from Uruguay or from wherever, because we love to know. I'm so thrilled that we got so many people. Do we have, Chris, any questions or comments?
You do. So Maggie wants to know, how can you decipher signs or feelings? I always think it's one thing, but then nothing happens, or much later it isn't what I thought it meant.
Oh, well, Maggie, that takes an awful lot of hard work and practice. When I first began my work, and it's strange really, and I cannot pinpoint the time it changed, but this happened for, I'm going to say, at least a year, if not a couple of years. I'm looking to Grey Eagle to see if he's got any idea of what I'm talking about. I think when I first began talking with the spirit world, I would hear them and see them, but as time went on and the more I did it, the stronger that got. But initially, I would see all sorts of weird signs, almost like the roads. You have what do they call it? The highway code and the road signs that you have to learn when you're first learning to drive. And one sign means a railway crossing, and another sign means parking, and another sign means junction ahead or something. And so we used an awful lot of signs rather like that. And I'll give you an example. So if I saw an X, right, over someone's shoulder, which it's almost like somebody had written it, placed the X on somebody's shoulder, that told me that there was a great deal of emotional trauma. If I saw that same X, I know it's weird, if I saw that same X sitting on top of somebody's head, it always told me, because every picture tells a story, and it's often so much quicker to get information that way. But that told me that that it was a personal relationship trauma. Here's a weird one. If I saw an X like this, but one of the lines went across like this and then spun around and up like that, that told me that there was a divorce or a split or a separation of some kind. I know, it's weird. And I don't use those signs anymore, because over the years I've developed a very quick and a very easy way of communicating, mind talk, very quick and very easy way of communicating. But in the beginning, in order for Grey Eagle to teach me and to help me to decipher, we use a lot of signs. Now, did I have to learn what they meant? No, I knew. Don't ask me how, but I knew instinctively what they meant. I didn't have anybody whispering in my ear, oh, that means, divorce, or that means this or this. So it was just something that I just knew. And I think that, Maggie, what you have to understand is there are some things that you simply, and it happens to all of us, there are some things you just know, and there are some things you just have to wait and see what it means. But in order to decipher and to interpret, first of all, you have to learn, don't judge, don't get into the trap that most people doing this get into. Don't assume that something means something. Don't think you know. Don't assume. Be patient and wait and see. Okay, keep going, Chris.
Jennifer believes in your story that you two are still heart connected.
Oh, well, you could be very right. If you read Soul Signs talks about soulmates, workmates, and playmates, and they each have their own space and their own time in our lives. And I think Michael was a playmate. He was a person who I could have fun with, but also to have a soul communication with, a spiritual communication with, which is obviously what the story is talking about, our souls connected in some way, in some very powerful way. But that didn't make him my soulmate, that simply made him my playmate. So Soul Signs explains it all to you. And if you want to know more about Soul Signs, while I'm just talking about that, please email me, Rosemary at rosemaryantaltea.com. Will tell you where you can find it. The most fascinating book you will never find. I dare you to find a more fascinating, intriguing, and amazing book than Soul Signs. Some lovely person actually wrote in on one of our shows and said, I want to get this book, can you tell me who wrote it? It's like, me. I wrote it. So Soul Signs by Rosemary Altea. We did bring out about a year or so ago, we brought out, you can get in hard copy, but we brought out so almost like a workbook size, which has several blank pages in there, so that, because trust me, if you don't have the work copy, you'll want a pen and a pad by your side at all times, because you'll be making notes. You'll find out all about your own self. You'll find out all about why your father loved your mother your father loved your sister more than you, or your mother, get contacted with your brother or connected with your brother far more than you, and so why you connected with so and so more. You learn all about that stuff. You'll learn all about your own personal, private relationships, why things work, why things don't work. And you told me that Jeff was on and he's got a few comments. Jeff can talk non-stop, actually, as I'm doing, about soul signs, because he loves soul signs. Anybody who reads the book loves it. It helps you if you haven't found that soulmate yet. It will help you to know what to look for and how to find that soulmate. Okay, Chris, let's go. Keep going.
Speaking of Jeff, he says, I have no doubt that people connect energetically. Our bodies emit energy, and I believe evolved people who are aware and feel each other's energy. More evolved people, for sure, can sense much more.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jennifer says, my brother was coming home from Japan and was in trouble. I heard his voice loud. It woke me out of my sleep.
Wow.
He said, Jen, I'm coming home, in a tone I knew I needed to help. And I drove to the airport that same night to get him.
Good for you, Jen. I'm glad you listened. Because very often we have these experiences, but we don't necessarily listen, do we? Or we think, oh, it's just your imagination or something. So please, be aware that these things can and do happen to all of us.
Ji-Young Kim says, I constantly think of a guy I sort of met and I don't know why. I wonder if he thinks of me or we are telepathically connected. It's been over 20 years. What is happening?
Well, it could well be that you have this soul connection. It could well be that there is, something about him. He could be a workmate or a playmate, a kind of soulmate, but when we think of soulmates, we think of those souls who we are connected to, who we have a love relationship or a deep and a really deep understanding and a special relationship with. But playmates and workmates, we have that same deep connection, but not necessarily in the same connected way. So that's interesting. Have you ever thought that you ought to write to him or find him or connect with him in more than this? You might want to try that and see, explore what it is. Okay.
Riney from Belgium saying, my eyes are glued to the screen. They want to know more.
Oh, great. Well, we do this every Saturday morning, and we shall, even though it's on Facebook, and you can go back on Facebook and scroll and see the other stuff, we also put it on YouTube. And if you go to my personal channel, Rosemary Altea, you go to my personal channel, you'll see we've got all sorts of things going on my channel, but you will find all of the previous story times and all of the previous stuff that we do. But isn't this a telepathy and mind talk and mind power? Don't you think it's an amazing subject, Chris? Don't you think it's an amazing and fascinating subject?
That's why I come back every week.
All right, keep going.
All right, Maggie says, when you feel something is wrong and contact people to ensure that they are right, and you find out everyone is okay, what is it then?
Well, sometimes it's just your anxiousness. Sometimes we are human and we have all this, not everything that we feel or sense necessarily means something. But also bear in mind, Maggie, that we might feel there's an issue or something wrong, but maybe that person, when we call them, we say, is everything okay? And they say, yeah, everything's fine. Maybe they just don't want to talk to you about what it is that's going on. And in those, or maybe something will happen in the future that is, that tells you that something's wrong. In those circumstances, instead of saying, are you okay? And what's wrong? Try saying, because this works so much better, try saying, I was thinking about you and just wanted to check in, and just to let you know that I'm thinking about you. And if that person is not ready or able or willing to talk about whatever issue they have, doesn't mean that there's not an issue. And just because somebody says I'm fine, trust me, everybody who's been calling me about my back this week has gotten the same answer, I'm fine. Right, Chris?
Yes, over and over. Although we know quite right you are not.
This is my standard, I'm fine. And, sometimes people feel there's no point talking about it. Sometimes people feel, well, they wouldn't understand anyway. I personally feel I can't do with the moaning and complaining. I hate it when other people moan and complain constantly and incessantly. I don't mind a few moans and complaints, but constantly and incessantly drives me up the wall. And the more so, the thing I hate the most is when I do it and I hear myself do it. I think, oh God, I've got to stop. I've just got to stop. So just let people know that you're thinking about them. And that is, if they are going through stuff that they don't necessarily want to talk about, then, at least that is going to make them feel a little bit better. You're a friend who's thinking about them. Keep going, Chris.
Denise asks, when we think of someone, are they thinking of us? And if so, how will we know?
Well, often we think of someone and they're not necessarily thinking about us at all. But if we're thinking about them sort of, there's a certain way that it's not just a mere thought, it's more than that. And when you have that sensation of, you're thinking of someone in that just slightly different way than normal, that there's more to it, and so that your energy is reaching out to them, and obviously they are going to feel it, because energy travels through time and space. Energy is out there. When we talk about healing, and we're talking about giving healing and sending healing, that's what we're doing. We're sending absent healing, distant healing. We're sending our thoughts, our mind, that mind power, that mind energy that we have, we're sending it out there. We're sending our energy out there. And what it does, it reaches that person. And this is also something that you also need all of you to note. When you're thinking of someone, I know that, having been in that situation myself from time to time, when you're thinking of someone in an angry way or in a harsh way, just remember, our thoughts, tiny, tiny pulses of energy, go out into the universe. They reach the person that they are meant to reach. So if you're thinking of Bob, out go these little tiny pulses of energy. They hit Bob. Bob absorbs them. If the energy is negative, it's going to absorb negative energy. You don't want that. If you're thinking positively, that's what it's going to receive. However, thoughts, energy, because it's yours, will return to you. So think about this. Our thoughts are like a boomerang. They will touch that person, they will hit that person, and they'll come whoa right back to you. As they come back to you, they're gathering more and more of the same kind of energy, remember? You know, sort of our thoughts are like magnets. They collect the same type of energy. So if you're out there thinking positive thoughts, you're going to get positive energy back. If you're out there thinking negative thoughts, you're going to get negative energy back. So every time you think a mean thought, or you send out to somebody, you know, a mean thought or a negative thought, beware, because it's coming back to you, but it will come back to you tenfold, and you won't have such a good day. And if you continually do it, if you're a person who does it all of the time, I can think of one person I'm going to mention who I know personally did it all the time. Resentful, angry, bitter, mean thoughts that she sent out everywhere was my mother. And she, of course, his energy is coming back to her again and again and again. She was the most unhappy and the most miserable human being, one of the most I've ever met. And that's just so sad. So when you're sending out those prayers and you're sending out that energy, or you're sending out those thoughts, be very careful, because it comes back to you, and you want what comes back to you to be good and positive and powerful. Next, Chris. I don't know if I'm answering questions or if I'm just talking here, but I'm hoping people are getting answers.
Well, everyone here commenting is quite thrilled. Firefighter Marianne finds this fascinating.
Hi, Marianne. Woohoo! I know where she lives. Summer's coming. Hopefully I'll be up your way in August. Keep going.
Maggie says, about 8 years ago I was driving and clearly heard a male voice say Minnesota. I assumed it was about a street in the city. Nothing happened. Then I thought I would go to Minnesota, but I have an inclination to go there. I've wondered for years what it meant. I still have no idea.
Maybe somebody was just suggesting, why don't you go to Minnesota and have a nice day out? You know, it could be as simple as that. I have so many stories. Chris, write down a story I want to tell you about. You'll love this story. Maybe I'll tell this story even next week, because it comes on the back of this one, about when I got stuck in the snow and my car broke down. Now that, oh golly, yeah, that's an amazing story. You know, that story happened so many years ago, but it's such a treasured story of mine, and Gregor has a lot to do with that story too. So you might want to hear how my spirit guide was able to guide me through the snow. Did I make it home, or did I get stranded? Did I meet a stranger? What happened in this story? Anyway, let's keep going with the comments, shall we?
Maggie has a response to that. She says, so you're saying when my ex constantly sends negative to me, I should be smiling because it's going to go back to him 10 times?
No, Maggie. Don't smile about it. Be nice. I know it's hard to be nice, but no, be nice, my lovely.
Cheryl's saying,
try and push it out of your life. That's what you do. Sorry. Cheryl says, hi, Cheryl.
She says, what an amazing story time this week.
Yeah, well, it was really, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, you know, it's just a small story, but I think things are so fascinating, energy, and of course we all talk about how many times do every one of us say somebody does something or says something, and you say, oh, you must have read my mind. That was just what I was thinking about, or that was just what I wanted to do. I was hoping the other day, I couldn't get out, I couldn't get food, I was having a struggle even to feed the puppy because I could barely bend down to pick up and see to his food. I did it, but nevertheless, I was thinking fried chicken. I don't know why, because I don't eat fried food very often at all. And I'll have a bacon sandwich, which is the closest I think I come to fried food, and that's maybe only once every couple of weeks or so. And it just came into my head, oh, I just could eat some. I know what it was. I was talking to somebody who'd just eaten a fried chicken sandwich. Never heard of such a thing, but I thought, oh, fried chicken, I could, and I was hoping, sending out the thoughts, but nobody came, nobody helped me, nobody sent me fried chicken. Sometimes it's just something, sometimes it's just wishful thinking, right? Anyway, keep going, everybody, because we're loving this topic, and we're loving your comments.
Karen says, thank you for the reminder of the power of both positive and negative thoughts. We surely create our reality with our thoughts, ideas, and beliefs.
Yes, and everything is about attitude, isn't it? So
Cheryl asks, Rosemary, is it possible for your grandson to get your gift of being a medium?
Oh, it's not only possible, he's right there. He is so there. And I will, if you write down Reese's stories, Chris, my family is we have Welsh blood and we have Scottish blood. Not that most of you would know what that means, but those of you who are Brits like I am, we know that the Scots and the Welsh are known for their, let's say, their weirdness or their insights or what have you. They certainly have, I don't know, because they live remotely, or they used to live in remote areas, or I don't know why it is, but they are known to be I think the term is Fey, F-A-Y, meaning some people might think it means with the fairies. Maybe think we're off with the fairies or something. But being Fey means being psychic or being sensitive to things that are beyond our normal sensitivity. And of course, my grandson has a big dollop of that. Plus, and it's also known to happen that very often, the gift misses a generation. Now, my daughter is very psychic sometimes. When she gets it so right, it's astounding. But it doesn't happen all the time. Consequently, my grandson has a big dollop of it. Who knows whether he'll develop it or not? Who knows? He knows how to give healing, and he knows how to look for his lovely little Piper, his puppy that they lost a few months ago. He knows how to do that sort of thing, and he's fascinated by it. But it's his choice at the end of the day, as it was my choice, and as it is everybody's choice, of whether to use the gift, embrace the gift, or to just move forward and do something else with your life. Chris.
So Joanne says, Mom and I both loved our reading many years ago in the UK. Thank you.
You can't Joanne, can't just say that. I'd love it. Here's what I'd really, really love. And people are starting to send me stories. If you've had a consultation with me, or Joanne calls it a reading, if you've had anything to do with me, or given you messages or what have you, Joanne, I'd love it if you'd email me, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, and tell me what your experience was. If you can remember it, if you can recount it, and tell me who you are and where you came from, and if you're, if you're English, where you live, and so on. And I'd love to get together. Maybe you'd allow me to share that story, because I do think that, when people come to see someone like myself, they come to see a medium. I don't know if if you're one of those people who've never had the experience, have never done it. People have a lot of misconceptions about what happens and so on. And so reading other people's stories, or recounting other people's stories as seen from my eyes, does help people to understand much more what it means and what it's like. And also, Joanne, I'm sure you will know, how it leaves you and what it leaves you with when you've really had communication with your loved ones in the spirit world, and they've been able to, you know, to tell you good things and to encourage you and you know, to sort of lift you up. What it really means is, you know, people often go away sort of almost, they're dazed, very often they're dazed, but they feel almost if they're walking on air. So I'd love to hear your experience. If you could find the time to email me, Joanne, again, Rosemary at rosemaryantea.com. And if you just want to share it with me, I'd just love to hear it anyway. But if you'd allow me to share it, if you can put in your email, you can share this. Because, hey, look how many people are on Storytime, and we love to hear these stories, right? Next, Chris.
Fabio from Italy's, you know, giving you hearts and prayers, and
Thank you.
Kat from France is saying bonjour.
Thank you, bonjour.
It's starting to wind down just a bit, so we're down to our last few questions. Maggie says, Grandpa was Scott Welsh. He knew things, and family was also intuitive. I told my great aunt to read the head of a child and tell what the next child would be. I guess she told my mom she was going to have twin boys. Mom was not pregnant at the time, told her she was crazy, then had twin boys.
Well, let me just say before you carry on with the questions, I'm having a dinner party this Sunday. It's going to be virtual. There won't actually be, I won't be cooking. I might actually cook myself something and sit and eat it while we have this. But my students and I are all getting together on Sunday for a social occasion. And they're very excited because I've asked them all to bring with them to our meeting. Are we doing it on Zoom, Chris? I think we're doing it on Zoom. To bring to our evening a white plate, a spoon or a fork, some chocolate pudding or chocolate ice cream, and if Karen's still listening, she'll say, really? I can't actually be there in the flesh to do this? So I'm asking them to bring this stuff, and I'm going to show them. It just reminded me, this lady saying her grandmother read somebody's head. We've all heard of people reading tea leaves. Gypsies used to read tea leaves years ago. I mean, is it real? Is it real, honestly? The answer is actually yes. And I have another story. Put that down. It's Mary Lou and the embryo. Yeah, these stories keep coming into my mind. So, is it possible to read tea leaves? Can you actually see the future reading tea leaves? And there are certain people who can, and I've done it myself. Not you know, just for fun, but it's you don't mess about with it. You don't, you know, when I say for fun, I when I'm doing it, I'm very, very serious about it. But it's a fun thing to show people how to do. And it's a fun thing to show them when you're reading the tea leaves. What I try to do with my students is I like to show them, we go inside the cup and I point out different things and what they mean. And so they can have some idea of what they're seeing and how I'm working with all this stuff that's going on in the tea leaves. A thing that I used to love to do in England, and you can't really do it here in the United States, because when people go to a pub or a bar or whatever, and they order a beer in the United States, it's flat. In England, when you order a beer, it has to have a head on it, which means the foam on the top has to be this thick. And if the foam on the top of the beer isn't this thick, nobody would drink it. Nobody. So as you're drinking it, as somebody is drinking it, their energy is going into all of this. Remember, your aura is several feet away from you, your energy field. So everything you touch, everything you do, everything you eat, everything that you do has an imprint of your energy on it in some way. And it's possible sometimes for somebody like me, and it used to be, we'd just have it for fun. The guys would drink the beers down really fast and all the beer glasses would head my way. And I would just read the foam, because as they're drinking, the foam, that head of foam that's on the top, would drain down the inside of the glass, and it would be possible to actually read. Yes, just like the tea leaves. Don't you think I'm weird? I'm such a weird person doing all this stuff, but it was so fascinating to be able to read the foam on the beer glass. And on Sunday night with my students, I'm going to show them how to read their ice cream. Can you really do it? I've done it as a party trick at dinner parties so many times. We all have so much fun. And then often when friends come, we'll be sort of sitting around at night, or when Marilou comes over, when Karen's here, or I have, my sister's here, or we have friends over, somebody will say, we'll have had dinner, maybe watch a movie, or we're sitting chatting and having drinks, and somebody will say, anybody want chocolate ice cream? And I'll know. You're laughing, Chris, aren't you? You're laughing.
My hand would be up first.
I'll know. And I've even had friends who have actually got in their car and gone to the grocery store to bring back chocolate ice cream, because it's a lot of fun to do it. And you can also tell a great deal about somebody and about their energy from doing it. So that's what we're doing on Sunday. Back to your questions, Chris.
Okay, EO says, how can we improve our medium skills, our conscience?
With my students, it takes quite a lot of training, and you have to be really sensible and really down to earth, and you have to learn to raise your level of consciousness. And certainly I shan't be doing it here this morning, but when we are doing our online seminars, I will be doing a seminar which helps people in a small way to learn to raise their level of consciousness to a point where they'll be able to see, to sense, and to hear more than they would normally. So that's one of the seminars that we're going to be doing, raising our level of consciousness to a point where we become more sensitive and more intuitive. Yep.
Lynn says she loves listening to you.
Thank you.
My grandmother was born with a veil. I also have some mediumship abilities. How can I improve these skills? Thank you so much.
Just as I just said, it takes time. You have to find a good teacher. They're not easy to find, and you have to be able to discern what is nonsense. And if you go to see a teacher who has all the answers, don't keep going, because nobody has all the answers. You want a teacher who will say to you, actually, I don't know that, why don't we check it out, or why don't we look it up, or simply, I've no idea, I don't know. And I think it's very important for all of us who are involved in this work to be able to say, I don't know. Stop wanting to be clever. Stop wanting to know it all. No, none of us knows it all. So don't be afraid to say, I don't know. But it does take time and patience. And as I've said, watch out for the seminars if you want to know more about how to become more intuitive, how to learn to hone your skills. You can sign up for the seminars. Where as soon as we have them up and running, we'll be putting them on Facebook, and we'll be putting them out there on our shows. Chris.
Maggie says, every time I've tried tea leaves, I look down in the cup and tell myself, I'm a mess.
Next question.
Karen says, I get very strong chills, I believe, when spirit is around. I don't see, but very much feel physically, like ice on my neck.
Right.
I also feel emotions of others and animals.
Well, you're obviously an extraordinarily sensitive person. Remember, all of you out there, all of you who, like me, have been told for years and years, the trouble with you, or the problem with you, is that you are too sensitive, or you're oversensitive. when you hear someone say that, you know that that someone has no sensitivity and really shouldn't be talking about sensitivity at all because they don't know anything about it. You cannot be too sensitive. You cannot be oversensitive. You can be ultra sensitive, and the best people on this planet are those of us who are ultra sensitive. So never be ashamed of your sensitivity, and never believe those people who say the trouble with you is, because you know that they are the most insensitive of the lot. Yeah.
Cheryl says, talking about beer, my dad used to say that would be all collar and no shirt.
I like that. Okay, keep going.
Joanne was responding to the comment earlier. She said, Rosemary, you went to Mom's for lunch in Doncaster and told her the bungalow was on ley lines, I seem to remember.
I went to your mother's house for lunch. Oh. Tell me more. Email me, Joanne, please email me and tell me more. I want to know more now. Yes, ley lines is another subject we should talk about at some point. Yes, keep going.
Karen says, how do we find out about your seminars?
Well, just keep checking in with Facebook. If you would like, you can email me, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. However, you have to request, please put me on your mailing list, because just because you send me an email does not automatically get you on the mailing list. So email me again, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Write in there seminars, online seminars, and we'll put your name in a folder, and as soon as we have things organized, planned, and all the rest of it, we shall send out notifications. If you're on our email list, you will get that notification. So, but remember, you have to request to be on there, and just say, I want to know more about the online seminars, and we'll keep your name, and as soon as we have everything set up and sorted out, we'll let you know.
Pat was asking the same question, when are you giving more seminars? So I think she can follow that advice.
Yeah.
Randy saying, can I watch your story on a replay? I missed it today.
Randy, you'll love it. You will love it. You'll love this story. Everybody seems to be loving this story. You can watch it on a replay. You'll find it on wherever you're obviously on the main Facebook page, so it will be there recorded. Also, at the beginning of next week, Michelle is actually away this weekend, so this won't be up until Monday or Tuesday of next week. You can find it on YouTube as well, as you can all of the other stories, story time that we've done. But Randy, this one is about telepathy and mind talk and mind connection. You'll love it. I know you'll love it. Yeah.
All right, last comment. Thank you, Rosemary. This is from Karen. I've been told I'm too sensitive my whole life.
Don't believe it, Karen. Don't believe it. Those people who are telling you those things and saying those things, they just tell you that to put you down, to make you doubt yourself. And I'm sure that it has made you doubt yourself again and again and again. And what a shame that is, and what insensitive people they are. You know, my family, I mean, it was almost like a mantra, the litany that came from my family, or look, you know, they called me crybaby because I would get emotional about things. And you know, I mean, when somebody's poking a stick at you, or poking their finger in your back, or they're making fun of you, or calling you, you know, pigeon chest or whatever it is, God forbid that you might show a few tears, because that makes you too sensitive. The problem with you is you're too sensitive, you're oversensitive. But they used to love to do it to make me cry, because it somehow gave them this weird perverted pleasure. But I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the experience, because it taught me that, you know, you can't be, it's not possible to be too sensitive, because the more sensitive you are, the more aware you are. The more aware you are, the more knowledge you gain, the more open you become, the more empathetic you become. It's not just about being sympathetic. We can all be sympathetic from time to time, but being empathetic means that we truly understand and feel another's pain. And although we may not want to do that, I'd rather be that way than any other way. So encourage yourself to be as sensitive as you possibly can be, my darling, because you are a beautiful person. You've got to be being sensitive. And there are so many people out there also. It's such a sad situation that we have here, especially in this Western world of ours, where anything like this subject was actively discouraged for years and years and years. You know, it sort of makes us question ourselves. It makes us, you know, we feel that we are worthless, or that we feel that we are different than other people, and therefore we try to hide that sensitivity, and we build a wall to protect ourselves. Unfortunately, the wall just keeps our emotions inside, and it makes life so much more difficult for us. What a shame that is. So get out from that wall, young lady. Shine brightly, embrace your sensitivity. That's what you need to do, because it's the very best thing that you can possibly be. Anything else, Chris?
No, that's it, Rosemary.
All right, well, it is time anyway, so perfect timing. Thank you, thank you, thank you all. Oh, we've got another one popping up.
That was us just saying thanks for joining us. Share the video.
Yes, don't forget, please, all of you out there, share this video, share this story time, because there are a lot of people out there who really don't even know about us, who would have, you know, such a feeling of being helped and being understood. So share as much as you can. Don't think that the friends that you have won't understand. Share it anyway, and they can discard it if they don't want to listen to it. But so many people out there, they won't talk about this unless somebody else talks about it first. So you be the first one to talk about it. Share. Anything else before we stop, Chris?
Just Rosemary, who also shares your name, is saying good morning.
Oh, that's so nice. Remember, you can find this story time on my YouTube channel, but not until Tuesday. But it's recorded on Facebook, so you can go back and listen to it and just scroll through and just, you know, press play, and I'll be on there for a while. So you know, just please share it, enjoy it, and thank you all for being so supportive all around the world. Isn't it fantastic? We've had all these people from all around the world. So blessings to you all. Please have a very, very, very blessed rest of the day, everybody. My love to my darling boy Reese. He's probably playing with his cars or his trains or something right now. So my love to him. And please, everyone, have a very, very, very blessed rest of the weekend. And we shall be back next Saturday at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with another story. We should be back on Thursday morning with The Spirit World Sees All. That will be on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. But email me, rosemary@rosemaryantaltea.com, and we'll send you all the stuff. You'll find me also on Instagram this morning talking about this show. Go search, go look me up, go find out about me. That's what you need to do. I shall see you very, very soon, I hope. And until then, please, all of you, have a very, very blessed rest of the weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.